Hi, this is Attorney Broderick Brown. I'm here to give you my legal commentary regarding the Nicki Minaj and Tracy Chapman situation. Before we get started, I want you to subscribe to the channel, pound the like button. But today we're going to cover why Nicki ended up winning a decision a couple months ago and still had to pay money. We're going to talk about the difference between a judgment and a settlement. And then we're going to talk about why this judgment was mutually beneficial to both sides. So again, subscribe to the channel and pound the like. Let's get started. So a while back, it came out that Nicki partially won her motion for summary judgment. And that Ms. Chapman, who was the plaintiff in the case, motion for summary judgment was denied. And I don't want to get into the technical reasons why both sides won their respective motions, or why the respective motions went the way they did. But I'm here to talk to you about, I was listening to a podcast and they said, oh, we thought that Nicki won, and then there was some confusion about why she still had to pay. The motion for summary judgment is a motion that either side can file in cases where there's no factual dispute, only a dispute as to the law. And the law is decided by the judge and not the jury. And so in this situation, the motion for summary judgment did not end the case. So the case was going to continue to go forward to trial. One of the things that I've seen is that on various articles on the internet, they refer to Nicki Minaj paying Tracy Chapman $450,000 as a settlement. This was not a settlement at all. What happened was that Nicki Minaj sent a Rule 68 offer under the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure to Tracy Chapman for $450,000. Now here in California, in our Civil Procedure Code, we call that a statutory 998 offer. What I like to call that offer for my clients is an I dare you offer. Essentially, what Nicki Minaj was doing to Tracy Chapman was she sent her an offer for $450,000, and if Tracy Chapman proceeded to trial and got less, she would be responsible for Nicki Minaj's court costs. She'd be responsible for any and all experts that Nicki had to hire in the case to proceed with the trial. And so that puts plaintiffs in a weird predicament, because you can technically win your case but still get lower than that statutory offer. Now in this case, the statutory offer was $450,000. And so if the jury came back with less than that, Nicki Minaj was going to get a credit from Tracy Chapman as for her costs and her expenses. Another reason why Nicki Minaj's attorneys strategically did that was that those type of offers also cut off the plaintiff's attorney's fees. So under certain statutes, the plaintiff is entitled to their damages plus their attorney's fees. Now, the reality of a civil trial is that it's going to take a couple weeks. Most cases are going to take a week, possibly 2 weeks. The attorney is going to be given sufficient time to prepare their trial. So you're looking at hundreds of hours, particularly if it is a law firm with multiple attorneys. And so a jury hypothetically could be like, Ms. Chapman, we know that that song was released. We only feel like your damages are worth $50,000, and her attorneys could still get an attorney's fees award for $500,000, $750,000, up to $1 million. So it depends on how much time and how heavily litigated the case was. And so what this offer does is essentially cuts off the attorney's fees if they don't exceed the $450,000 at the trial. Now, the reason why it's not a settlement is that this is public record. That's the only reason why we know about it. And the reason why we know about it is that a judgment was entered against Nicki Minaj. Now, if you go through a trial, at the conclusion of the trial, after the jury renders its verdict, a judgment would be entered. Now, in this case, Nicki Minaj avoided the trial and instead agreed to the judgment amount of $450,000. And so that's a huge difference. Generally speaking, in these types of lawsuits, a settlement's going to require some sort of confidentiality provision. So you settle it and the terms remain private. There's also other things that can be negotiated that can be included in the settlement. How soon the payment will be made. Will the payment be made in payments, et cetera, et cetera. So a settlement and a judgment, even though the monetary terms may be similar, it's not the same. And then let's get to the reason why potentially it's mutually beneficial for both sides. So for Nicki Minaj, I understand why they submitted the offer. From my reading of the evidence and looking at the motions, it was clear that there was some liability there. But ultimately, it's hard to determine what a jury would award in terms of the damages. And so if the jury came back at over $450 for the damages plus the plaintiff's attorney's fees, Nicki Minaj might have been looking at a seven-figure verdict or a seven-figure judgment when it's all said and done, because you would get the underlying damages of, let's say, $650,000, and the judge may award the plaintiff's attorney another $600,000, and that gets you to $1.2 million, right? There's a lot of unknowns. Now for Ms. Chapman, there's risk on her side too. The jury could say, Ms. Chapman, we understand that Nicki Minaj did you wrong, and we agree with you there, but we only think your damages are worth $50,000. Well, if that happened, Ms. Chapman would probably not receive much money herself, because she would have to pay for Nicki Minaj's costs and expert fees. And plus, I assume that her attorneys are probably working on a contingency fee, so her attorneys probably are getting 40% of that $50,000. And what I generally speaking like to say when I'm in this situation with my clients is, you want, all things being equal, you want an opportunity to write the final chapter of the book. And in this case, the book is the lawsuit. And so you want a hand, you want to be a contributing author. If you go to the jury trial, it's really out of your hands. It's up to those 12 individuals that ultimately sit on that jury. Those 12 individuals could think that Nicki was right. They could think that Nicki was wrong. They could think that, Ms. Chapman's damages are unreasonable because, ultimately they're very individualized. This is not a situation where it's going to be easy for a jury to put an economic damage. A lot of it is non-economic, especially when you consider the fact that Ms. Chapman typically doesn't license her music. Now, but for Ms. Chapman, it's a win because not only does she get the $450,000, she's letting everyone know publicly that if you sample my music or you use my lyrics, I'm going to take you to court and you are going to have to pay me. So, it's a win-win. Nicki can avoid the risk of going to trial and potentially having to face a runaway verdict. Ms. Chapman can avoid the risk of the jury coming back less than $450 and her having to pay out money for Nicki Minaj's cost and expert fees. But that's why ultimately both sides in this case contributed to the final chapter. Now, I disagree when I listen to a podcast or read something and say, and they frame it as a win for Nicki Minaj, because technically a judgment is a win for the plaintiff. I mean, she got $450,000. Now there's a lot that I don't know. I don't know if Ms. Chapman was demanding $2 million throughout the litigation. We don't really know that. But what I do know is that she got a positive amount. And it appears from this information that it definitely was a plaintiff's judgment. And at the end of the day, that's my thoughts on it. And so when you hear these things, it's a little bit more complicated than it may be in a blog post, but ultimately it wasn't a settlement. If they did settle, we would not know the terms. And a judgment is public information, and in this case, I can see from both sides why Nicki made the offer, and ultimately why Ms. Chapman accepted. And if you have a lawsuit, that's something that you need to consider, because ultimately no one knows what a jury is going to do at the end of the day. And what is it saying? A bird in the hand is worth two in the tree. And that's basically it. If you enjoyed this video or you're looking for more content, subscribe to the channel. Let's obliterate that like button. And I just thank you. I'm going to be giving you a lot more content in 2021. If you have any thoughts, if you had any settlements recently in the last couple of years, go down in the comments, share your experience, and we can facilitate a discussion in the comments. But that's it. Thanks so much for the time.